Hey guys, welcome back to the Kacee Outdoor Podcast. We're about freedom, truth, and exploring the unknown. So today we're going to do things a bit different. We're usually getting into large scale and global politics, but today we're going to talk about local politics, and it's going to be about my home state, Kentucky. And not just because I'm from Kentucky, but because the current governor's election is extremely important. It's actually one of the most mainstream and watched elections right now in the country, and that's between incumbent Democrat Governor Andy Beshear and Attorney General of Kentucky, Republican candidate Daniel Cameron. And that's what we're going to talk about today, and how that's really important to not only on the local level, but on the macro level of this country as a whole. Because you have Andy Beshear, who's Biden endorsed, and you have Daniel Cameron, who's Trump endorsed. So you can really see how this is really relative to the current presidential election, and the people of Kentucky have a big choice 5 days from now. So after a brief summary of both candidates, we're going to do a reaction video to the fifth and final debate that was held last week between Andy Beshear and Daniel Cameron, to have a real perspective as to who these guys are and how their characters pertain themselves. And like I said, we're going to explain some things first, and I'll leave it up to you to decide who's best fit to serve as governor of Kentucky. And at the very end, I'll tell you who I think. For months, Democrat Governor Andy Beshear and his challenger, Republican Attorney General Daniel Cameron, have made their cases to voters why they think they're best suited to lead Kentucky over the next 4 years. Now, with Election Day just 5 days away, Tuesday, November 7th, here's what Beshear and Cameron have said about their views on abortion, education, public safety, transgender issues, economy, Medicaid, energy, and environment, issues that are pretty important in Kentucky as we speak. So as we know, abortion, after the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade in 2022, a Kentucky law automatically went into effect that has no exceptions to allow abortions except in cases to save mothers' lives. Now, this fall, Kentucky's voters rejected a constitutional amendment that would have removed and implied the right to abortion in the state constitution. So Beshear's campaign released multiple ads addressing abortion, including one that features a victim of a childhood sexual abuse who became pregnant but later miscarried, though they do not specifically use the word abortion. And that was the biggest slander against Daniel Cameron. If you're a resident of Kentucky and you've turned on your TV the last 6 months, there's a good chance you've seen some sort of ad or campaign smearing Daniel Cameron about abortion and using some childhood victim to try to tear-jerk people away from Cameron and onto Beshear's campaign, which is completely ridiculous. Nothing more than childish and about as low as you can get if you have to use that sort of method to veer people towards your campaign. I think that's completely wrong, and obviously Biden endorsed this, and that advertisement was on probably every single commercial break once, if not twice, and it was actually ridiculous how much they tried to push that. And again, some could argue that's election interference. Obviously there are rules when it comes to campaigning and elections and advertisements, so whether those have been broken, I cannot say for sure, I can only speculate, but again, some could argue that's election interference, especially as much as those campaigns were pushed. Now, on the other hand, Attorney General Cameron expressed his willingness to sign legislation that would add exceptions for cases of rape and incest to Kentucky's near-total abortion ban should it be passed by the General Assembly. In this pivotal race, we find that Attorney General Cameron has firmly declared himself as a pro-life candidate, and he's actually garnered endorsements from influential organizations such as Kentucky Right to Life and Northern Kentucky Right to Life. In his unwavering commitment to the pro-life stance, Cameron shared, "My views on this are shaped by my faith, and I believe we have a responsibility to protect the lives of the unborn." He acknowledges the sensitivity of the abortion issue, understanding its importance to many. Now, on the other hand of this debate, Governor Andy Beshear has voiced his opinion for support of certain restrictions on abortion, including the prohibition of late-term abortions. During the fourth debate at Northern Kentucky University, Beshear highlighted that Kentucky's current abortion law is one of the most restrictive laws in the nation, and he advocates for a change. His vision for addressing this issue is to return the principles established by Roe v. Wade, removing the decision from the realm of politicians and entrusting it to the judiciary. He believes that the court should balance access considering both the emotional turmoil and a young girl might endure at the most recent scientific evidence. Now moving on to education. Attorney General Cameron has aptly named his plan the Cameron Catch-Up Plan, and it's centered on enhancing the academic performance of Kentucky students, which he believes has been negatively impacted by the disruptions caused by the school closures and virtual learning during the challenging times of the coronavirus pandemic. His plan includes ambitious proposals such as raising the starting base rate pay for new teachers to $41,500, implementing a 16-week tutoring program for math and reading during summer breaks and after school, and adding a reading interventionist to every school district. Cameron also emphasizes the importance of ensuring that all districts are in compliance with the state laws that mandate the presence of school resource officers who serve as a vital part of the school security. I actually said this in episode 3 about the Nashville school shooting. There should be at least 3 armed police officers or veterans that were retired who can go and armed protect that school. The inside, the out, have somebody on the cameras rather than just one out-of-shape resource officer. He also seeks to establish a student teaching stipend, grant superintendents a discretionary fund to reward experienced teachers, while also encouraging mid-career individuals to embark on the journey of teaching. Attorney General Cameron has been on a mission to win over the support of Kentucky's educators, a group that played a pivotal role in Governor Beshear's election victory over former Republican Governor Matt Bevin. In his endeavor to reach out to educators, Cameron held a press conference where he openly acknowledged the apprehensions that some educators have about him and, by extension, any Republican nominee for the governor's office. In a moment of candor, he stated, "I know you might have some apprehensions about me, or for that matter, any Republican nominee for governor. So let me just say, I'm sorry for any comments that have made you feel less valued or have led to have serious misgivings about the Republican Party on the topic of education." Cameron's words reflect a genuine desire to bridge the gap and build a new relationship between educators and the Republican Party. He acknowledges past misgivings and strives to create a more inclusive and collaborative environment. Now, when it comes to Governor Andy Beshear on education, he's reached out to educators and unveiled a comprehensive Education First plan, a proposal that takes center stage in the 2024 to 2026 budget. With this visionary plan, Beshear has made a resounding call to the Governor Assembly, urging them to fund an additional 11% pay raise for all Kentucky school personnel. This significant increase would elevate starting teacher salaries to an average of $42,191 based on the data from National Education Association. However, the governor claims that he's acutely aware of these challenges that can arise from solely focusing on the starting salaries alone. He pointed out that this approach can create salary compression, where experienced teachers earn nearly the same as those who are just beginning their careers. This insight underscores his commitment to retaining and valuing the experience of seasoned educators. Now moving on to public safety. Within the state's upcoming 2024 to 26 budget, Governor Beshear has made a case for increased funding in several key areas, with a strong focus in supporting law enforcement. He envisions allocating more resources for training, body armor, and raising our dedication to law enforcement. However, it's important to note that the General Assembly, which holds a Republican majority, often differs from the perspective of the governor, which will have a pivotal role determining the budget during the upcoming legislation session, which is actually this January. Beshear's vision extends to critical changes in law enforcement pensions. His proposal includes the movement of all law enforcement pension plans back to defined benefits, an increase in pension income for retired Kentucky State police officers, troopers, and those in local jurisdictions included in these plans. Furthermore, the governor aims to provide a $2,500 raise for all KRS Chapter 16 employees, a category encompassing troopers, vehicle enforcement officers, and others. Cameron's public safety plan largely focused on addressing crime in Louisville. He said as governor he would oppose subpoena powers for civilian police review boards and support giving Kentucky law enforcement officers a $5,000 bonus to improve recruitment and retention. Additionally, he was endorsed by the Kentucky State Fraternal Order of Police, a group that previously endorsed Beshear during the 2019 election. His other plans include the legislator authorizing Kentucky State Police to conduct wiretaps, establishing a KSP post in Louisville, reforming the Kentucky Parole Board by increasing the vote threshold for release and giving the governor the power to remove members at will, increasing the penalties for drug traffickers, such as allowing murder charges against drug dealers when someone dies from a substance that they distributed, which I'm not really sure about that one. and mapping tools to rapidly increase resources to drug hotspots. And we've seen how miserably the war on drugs has failed. But he also wants to mandate DNA collection for serious felonies such as rape, murder, or burglary, and ensuring protections to automatically purge DNA if a case is acquitted or dismissed with prejudice, supporting a group violence intervention effort. The recent passage of Senate Bill 150 by the General Assembly, a controversial anti-transgender law, not only triggered a political firestorm, but also thrust the subject into the spotlight of the gubernatorial race. Governor Andy Beshear took a strong stance on this legislation, vetoing it on the grounds that it will allow too much government interference in personal health care issues and rips away the freedom of parents. Governor Andy Beshear took a strong stance on this legislation, vetoing it on all grounds, and quotes that it allows too much government interference in personal health care issues and it rips away the freedom of parents to make medical decisions for their children, which again I don't agree with. But however, despite this veto, the General Assembly, in an easy override, enacted measure into this law. However, despite his veto, the General Assembly, in an easy override, enacted the measure into law. This law has far-reaching implications as it bans gender-affirming medical care for individuals under 18. It allows teachers to misgender transgender students, regulating which school bathrooms children can use, and often limit the scope of sexual education that students can receive. Parts of this law has faced legal challenges, and school districts have grappled on how to integrate it into their policies, which that's a lot of controversy there. Parts of this law has faced legal challenges, and school districts have grappled with how to integrate it into its policies. It's worth noting that Governor Beshear's veto faced criticism from Republicans, including his opponent, Daniel Cameron. Cameron claimed that Beshear's supported sex change surgery and drugs for minors, and a stance that vehemently refused by Beshear himself in a campaign ad. Now, the governor emphasized that he has never supported transgender reassignment surgeries for kids, and further clarified that the legislation had solely addressed banning gender-affirming surgeries for minors. He would have signed it. Now, we'll have to see if he follows through with that if elected. Like I said, Daniel Cameron's been very vocal and critical of Governor Beshear's decision to veto a law that is sought out to prohibit transgender women and girls from participating in female sports at their colleges and schools. And once again, the General Assembly successfully overrode the veto, enacting this legislation. And Cameron's running mate, Republican Senator Robbie Mills of Henderson, Kentucky, played a pivotal role as a primary sponsor of that legislation. Now, during a recent debate at the Paducah Arena Chamber of Commerce, Cameron passionately stated Beshear is a governor that told you he would not protect women's sports from biological males. If you're a parent or grandparent of a child who's playing in women's sports, imagine having a governor that will not stand up for that child. Moving on to economy. Now, Governor Beshear has consistently highlighted his administration's economic achievements, underscoring the record job creation and investments witnessed during his tenure. He points to critical infrastructure projects such as the expansion of the Mountain Parkway and the construction of the Brent Spence Bridge, without using any tolls at the same time. Even in the face of formidable challenges, including a global pandemic, tornadoes, flooding, windstorms, and ice storms, he emphasizes that Kentucky stands up on the cusp of its most remarkable economic success ever. On the other hand, Attorney General Cameron paints an alternate picture. He holds Governor Beshear and Democrat President Joe Biden accountable for the issues of inflation within Kentucky. Cameron also criticizes the state's low workforce participation rates. During a recent debate, he expressed, "Tonight, you're going to hear Andy Beshear tell you that the economy couldn't be better. But chances are you don't feel that way because inflation is destroying your wallet." In the realm of Kentucky's economy, we find ourselves at a juncture where numbers and policies intertwine with our future well-being. Recent data from Kentucky Education and Labor Cabinet reveals that our state's seasonally adjusted preliminary unemployment rate for September stood at 4.1%. Notably, this rate saw a slight increase of 0.1% from both August 2023 and the previous year. On the campaign trail, Attorney General Cameron has championed the idea of eliminating the state income tax, pledging to sign such legislation into law if elected governor. His support for this initiative has been unwavering, and he has consistently criticized Andy Beshear for vetoing a bill in 2022 that would have reduced the income tax rate by 0.5%. The legislative decision to override the veto underlines the importance this issue is in the state. Governor Beshear, on the other hand, took a different approach. This year, he signed a law into measure that slashes the state income tax by another 0.5%, bringing it from 4.5% to 4%, with the law set to take effect in 2024. Governor Beshear has been a proponent of continuing to reduce income taxes, but emphasized the importance of a cautious and prudent approach rather than hasty decision-making. The General Assembly had enacted legislation that established certain financial thresholds to be met in order to lower the income tax further, but this year those benchmarks were not achieved. Beshear's approach reflects a desire for measured and responsible fiscal management, according to those who are on his campaign. Meanwhile, Attorney General Cameron has persistently raised concerns about Governor Beshear's decision to commute the sentences of 1,870 inmates who were either medically vulnerable or nearing the end of their sentences. These individuals had not been convicted of violent or sexual offenses, and this action had been taken days earlier of the coronavirus pandemic due to overcrowding in the correctional facilities. Cameron's campaign released data in October indicating that nearly 70% of those prisoners released by Beshear had committed those offenses and recommitted them again. A critical point of contention has been the rate of reoffending among those whose sentences were commuted. It is worth noting that the data shows that a majority of these crimes occurred after the inmates' original release dates. Information provided by the Kentucky Justice and Public Safety Cabinet has shed light on this matter, stating that as of August 2023, fewer than 10% have been convicted of a felony prior to those original release, which is even lower than the current statewide recidivism rate. As of early October, a minimal fraction of those who received communications, merely 0.1%, have been convicted of a violent crime. As defined by state law prior to their original scheduled release date, these statistics offer a broader context to the conversation surrounding communications, helping everyone gain a more comprehensive understanding of these outcomes. Attorney General Daniel Cameron has consistently expressed his support for workforce requirements for able-bodied individuals to receive Medicaid, which is now the next subject. During a recent debate at Northern Kentucky University, both Governor Beshear and Attorney General Cameron were asked about their positions on expanding work requirements for Medicaid receipts. Beshear firmly noted that his stance expressed his opposition to the idea. He stated, "Healthcare is a basic human right, and the best way to get people back to work is to get them healthy enough. Tearing away their healthcare coverage while they're trying to get on their feet will not help the workforce participation at all." Upon his election, Governor Andy Beshear took swift action by signing an executive order that rescinded planned medical work requirements, a policy put forth by the previous Bevin administration. This move was emblematic of Beshear's commitment to ensuring access to health care for the people of Kentucky and his vision for a healthcare system that prioritizes the needs of the citizens, as he says. In contrast, Attorney General Cameron has articulated his concerns about the state workforce capacity to support the business and hospitals that Governor Beshear championed. He highlighted the pressing issue of a nursing shortage in our state, which raises important questions about the healthcare infrastructure. Cameron, in response, characterizes Governor Beshear's approach as expanding welfare roles and encouraging individuals to remain at home. He emphasized the challenge faced by Kentuckians during the pandemic, citing difficulties in accessing unemployment benefits, a topic that resonates deeply with many of our state. In the heart of Paducah, a place that has played a significant role in Kentucky's energy landscape, the gubernatorial candidates, Governor Beshear and Attorney General Daniel Cameron, were posed with the question about the future of advanced nuclear energy and new technologies in our state. The Paducah Gaseous Diffusion Plant, a once thriving center of nuclear activity, saw its operation cease in 2013 and now falls under the jurisdiction of the U.S. Energy Department. In response to the question, Governor Beshear expressed his conviction that the federal government had not treated this region right, emphasizing the vital role that Paducah Gaseous Diffusion Plant and the nuclear industry have played in the area. He spoke of his belief in an all-of-the-above energy strategy, where traditionally industries are nurtured while simultaneously creating opportunities for new industries and jobs in our evolving energy landscape. Governor Beshear speaks passionately about the legacy of coal, emphasizing its fundamental role in building the United States. He highlights how coal powered us through the Industrial Revolution and carried us through trials of 2 world wars. He pays tribute to the hardworking individuals who dedicated their lives to mining that coal, often facing utter rudest conditions to contribute to the construction of the great nation. Alright, so now that you guys have a pretty good understanding of what both candidates are about, we're going to react to the 5th and final debate between Beshear and Cameron, held 2 weeks ago, and you can determine for yourself who you think is best fit to lead Kentucky.
I'm Bill Bryant, and we welcome you to the Kentucky debate. And for the next hour, we'll be talking with the two candidates vying for Kentucky's top job, the office of Governor of the Commonwealth.
From the WKYT studios in Lexington, this is the Kentucky debate for governor.
Good evening. The race for Kentucky governor has been heating up over the past few weeks. You have seen the slick ads and the tough speeches out there on the trail. Democratic incumbent Andy Beshear is looking to serve the Commonwealth for another 4 years, while Attorney General Daniel Cameron is hoping to flip the seat back to Republican, the party that also leads the Kentucky General Assembly. Tonight we'll be asking a series of questions that impact Kentuckians in all of our regions here in the Commonwealth. Each candidate will have a minute to answer each question, and will provide time for a rebuttal if needed. And I may press for some clarity as well. At the end, candidates will have closing statements, and we have drawn for the order both of who answers first and for the order of the closing statements. Let's jump right into the issues, gentlemen. Our viewers have told us that they care most about the economy. The two candidates have starkly different views on that. Governor Beshear has touted major jobs announcements during his tenure, low unemployment, and said the Kentucky economy is on fire repeatedly. Attorney General Cameron has described a struggle for many in Kentucky and notes that fewer Kentuckians are working now than were 4 years ago. If that's where we are, how do we move forward? General Cameron.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight, and thank you, Bill, and all those that are watching. Look, the governor tonight will tell you again that he believes that this is an economy on fire, but chances are you don't feel that way. This is, for many folks, an economy that's on life support. We have 22,000 fewer Kentuckians working since this governor took office. The median household income has dropped by 12%, making the last 3 years the largest decline in median household income that we've seen in this Commonwealth's history. Inflation is rocking your wallet and is killing your savings. It's more expensive to buy groceries, gas. It's more expensive to buy everything. And the economic policies that got us into this mess, Andy Beshear has doubled down on them by endorsing Joe Biden. What I believe is that we need to give you more of your money into your pocket. We need to eliminate Kentucky's income tax. I will be the only candidate on this stage tonight that will say we will eliminate Kentucky's income tax to give you more of your hard money into your pockets.
Governor Beshear, your response.
We are coming off our two best years for economic development in our history. This administration set a record $27.5 billion new dollars invested in us, invested in Kentucky. Look at our national rankings. Number 2 in per capita economic development. Number 3 in the creation of rural jobs. We're building the 2 biggest battery plants on planet Earth. We're home to the biggest investments in the history of Ford and Amazon. We are getting picked time and time again for the biggest projects ever. We set the lowest annual unemployment rate ever last year, the lowest monthly unemployment rate ever about 5 months ago, the longest period of low unemployment we have ever seen. But don't take my word for it. The toughest critics out there are the bond rating agencies. Even Fortune 100 companies look at those as the experts. We've received upgrades from 2 and an economic upgrade from 3. They all say we're booming more than other states. We got to keep this going. We are winning.
Is there further response?
Well, yeah, look, the expert is the folks that are watching at home. And you know more than anyone else that your savings have been attacked, that your purchasing power is not as good as it was nearly 4 years ago.
No debate there.
It's under the leadership of Andy Beshear and the president that he has endorsed, Joe Biden, that inflation is rocking our people. And when he had the opportunity to provide tax relief by vetoing, giving you tax cuts, he vetoed the tax cuts. You need a governor who wants to eliminate Kentucky's income tax. That'll be me.
Further response, Governor?
Well, Bill, that's not accurate. We have built an economy that is generating so much revenue that we can afford raises for our public educators. We can afford major infrastructure projects, but it's also allowed me to sign a bill cutting the income tax. I have lowered the property tax rate 3 straight times. I froze the gas tax when time was tough. I froze the motor vehicle tax when time was tough.
So both claim they're going to get rid of income tax.
What I won't do is recklessly cut income tax in a short period of time and decimate our economy like they did in Kansas. That is the Cameron plan.
All right, let's move. We want to talk about the state income tax, and the Republican-led legislature wants to eliminate the state income tax, has included more services under the sales tax in order to offset that. And the legislature has adopted what it considers to be a very careful approach, where there are some triggers that have to be hit for the next reduction to happen. That apparently has not been hit this year. Attorney General Cameron seems to have suggested speeding up the process of eliminating the state income tax. Governor Beshear vetoed the original bill on income tax, but then signed one of the reductions. So how do we move forward at this point on the future of the state income tax? Governor Beshear.
We do it carefully by looking at our revenues each and every year. What my opponent has proposed, promising in 4 years to eliminate an income tax, would cut about $5 billion of revenue.
Why haven't you?
When Kansas did it, it halted their economic growth. They had to stop all their infrastructure projects. They gutted public education and health care. My opponent says that things cost too much with inflation. Well, what he's going to do is increase sales tax on everything and then apply it to groceries and medicine. Otherwise, he's going to gut public safety, he's going to gut health care, and he's going to gut public education. You simply can't afford the investments in those with his plan. That first income tax bill I got wasn't a cut. It raised sales tax on things like conventions and background checks that keep kids safe. The second one didn't include any sales tax increases, and I could look at revenue year over year and know that we could afford it based on this economy. I do want to continue to make those cuts, but we've got to do it wisely and carefully, not rashly.
General Cameron.
Look, the folks at home just heard the governor say he gauges how well the economy is doing is by how much money the government is taking in. He said the revenue that government's taking in. You at home gauge how the economy is doing by how much money you have in your wallet and in your savings account.
Exactly.
And that's why I want to give more of it back to you. Look, at the end of the day, there's a philosophical difference here. I believe that you should have more of your hard-earned money in your pocket. Andy Beshear believes, and you just heard him say, he wants more revenue to the government. And I didn't say anything about raising any sales taxes. The governor keeps talking about this, but the fact of the matter is, my plan is to eliminate Kentucky's income tax. I'm going to do it smart and thoughtfully, along with the members of our legislature. I appreciate Chairman McDaniel and Jason Petrie and others in our General Assembly. And here's the best part of that, is that I have a relationship with our General Assembly to get these big things done for this Commonwealth of Kentucky. At the end of the day, this is a philosophical difference. The governor believes that the government should have more of your money. I want you to have more of your money.
Do you want to speed up the elimination of the state income tax? This plan that is in place by the state legislature would take many years, it appears, and if we continue to miss those targets, it could take a considerable time.
Well, Bill, look, the folks at home, there's already an additional tax on you at home. It's called inflation, and it's called Bidenomics in D.C., but we just call it 40-year high record inflation. And for the life of me, I can't understand why Andy Beshear would endorse a president who has got us into this mess.
Bill,
that's a great question.
Those economic policies have absolutely rocked your wallet. At the end of the day, I'm going to eliminate Kentucky's income tax, and I'm going to do it in a thoughtful and responsible manner. But you will never hear Andy Beshear. You can ask him right now. Will he eliminate Kentucky's income tax?
Would you speed up the time frame?
I'll do it in a thoughtful manner, along with the members of our legislature, to make sure that we eliminate Kentucky's income tax.
Bill, this is our 6th debate, and what we've seen over and over is this candidate refuses to answer the questions. He refuses to answer whether he believes there should be an exception for rape and incest under the state's abortion law. He refuses to say whether he is for or against vouchers, and you just asked him a simple question. Will he speed it up? And he still won't answer. You deserve a governor, folks, that will look at you.
Bill, you just heard me say I'm going to do it in a responsible and thoughtful manner. The governor here is out here again, television.
Are you going to speed it up?
Responsible and thoughtful manner. You heard me just say that. The governor, again, has no answers to the inflation and has no answers to the fact that he endorsed Joe Biden.
Well.
Again, if he wants to say that he regrets endorsing Joe Biden and the inflationary policies that have come along with that, then I would be happy to hear that. I think a lot of Kentuckians who don't have the money in their wallet and don't have the savings in their savings account would be happy to hear this governor say that he regrets endorsing Joe Biden.
The question was, will you speed something up? And his answer was Joe Biden.
And I said responsible and thoughtful manner. Bill, the folks at home know why I said a responsible and thoughtful manner.
All right, workforce issues
What does that
clearly
mean,
a
though?
concern here
You need
in
to
the
specify
Commonwealth.
more on
There
what a
are
thoughtful and
shortages
responsible
in
manner means.
nursing and teaching and law enforcement, retail, restaurants, just to name a few. Child care, often mentioned as one major barrier for many. Federal COVID-era subsidies are running out. How much responsibility does the state have in the area of child care? We begin this time with
defund the Department
General
of Education.
Cameron.
Don't
Well,
accept
look,
their funds.
there are so many parents right now, and we've seen because of the inflationary pressures that are coming to us, we've seen the cost of child care rise. And I know there are a lot of parents that are struggling
51%.
with that right now. And part of the challenge that we have is the onus and responsibility needs to be on Andy Beshear, who shut down child care centers all across this state. And again, last night you heard a governor say that he had no regrets for the closures that he instituted during the past couple of years. Again, that's not a governor that's looking out for our people, and that's certainly not a governor that is standing up for our child care centers and our parents that need to get our kids into those centers. I'm going to be a governor that works alongside our legislature to expand our child care services and look for other ways in which we can establish a culture of life here in Kentucky to make sure our kids get off on the right foot so that they can be the best version of themselves.
Governor Beshear, your response.
Well, Bill, Kentuckians deserve a governor that will answer questions, not resort to attacks, and talk about a plan on how to address the issues. We look right now at workforce, and the very first thing that we can do is universal pre-K for all 4-year-olds. When they did it in Washington, D.C., it got people back into the workforce quickly. It is the fastest way that we can save our parents about $18,000. We can have every child kindergarten ready, but we can directly impact that workforce. The second thing we can do to help our workforce is to continue our program, where we try to get every single graduating senior from a Kentucky high school, either in higher ed with the dollars they need or already in a job before they graduate. Let's not lose one. And then look at what we're doing with our community and technical colleges. Our Education First employer program has opened the doors and said, come on, employers, bring your curriculum. Because instead of just graduating people with degrees, we're going to create that direct pipeline to you. Those are plans. They're tangible. It's how we address a problem
No one's going to college
and not just
anymore.
blame it on someone else.
I will say it's
response,
at least a
General
plan,
Of course,
whether he's right or wrong.
Folks at home, you would think that Andy Beshear has not been the governor for the last 3.5 years. The fact of the matter, there are 22,000 fewer Kentuckians working under his watch. We have the lowest workforce participation rate that we've had in this country's or Commonwealth's history. That is under this governor. But yet tonight he unveils programs and policies, but he's had 4 years to get something done on this front. You need a governor who's going to lean into this issue, and that is what I'll do as the next governor. I'm going to make sure that able-bodied participants get to work. This governor will never say that because he's beholden to the far left, and he cannot speak out and say that able-bodied people, we need to get you back into our workforce.
All right, Governor
Less
Beshear.
people during
Bill, every
COVID are
program
working
I mentioned is
than what
already
they are
in
now.
effect, or I've put in one
Then
of
why
my
aren't they
budgets.
working,
but
Governor?
once again, zero plan from
There's
my
no way
opponent,
there's more
and
people working
instead
now.
just attacks. You deserve somebody that is running for something and not just against someone. That'll talk about the ideas and the ways that we get things done. My opponent only sees in Team Red or Team Blue. This is about Team Kentucky. An overly partisan governor will always look to play the blame game or to attack. We've got to get things done. That's what being a governor is all about.
Bill, if I may.
I'll give you a second. Go ahead.
Well, I just asked the folks at home, if these programs exist, then why aren't they working? We obviously need a new governor that can instill some policies and programs in place to get folks working. I've already said, if you're at home and not working, able-bodied individuals need to get back into the workforce. I've talked to so many employers
Quit
that
paying
need
people to
folks
stay
to
at
come
home
and work in their
more
facilities.
and actually
the way,
send them
part of
to
the way
work.
in which we do that is to encourage able-bodied people to get home. I will be the workforce governor. This Andy Beshear has been the welfare governor.
You have further on this, Governor? We'll move on.
Once again, all attacks, no plan. Do you want an overly partisan governor that will just look to play the national politics game tonight? He's trying to convince you that this is the race for the presidency and not for the governor of Kentucky. Listen, we are working with our employers every day.
Well, look, the reason that our legislature had to implement a confirmation process is because this governor was breaking the law. He, for the first time in this state's history, blew up the Board of Education, and then you're supposed to put Republicans and Democrats on that board. He just put Democrats on that board. And when he did so, They gave us a commissioner at the Kentucky Department of Education who went before our General Assembly. And if you're a teacher right now, you know this story. Jason Glass went before the General Assembly, and when he was asked if any teacher, if they expressed any reservations about the gender ideology curriculum, what words of comfort did he have for them? Jason Glass's response is that they should find a different job. Andy Beshear's hand-picked commissioner at the Kentucky Department of Education told hardworking teachers that they should find another job. This is in the midst of a teacher shortage. By May of next year, the next governor will have the opportunity to appoint 9 of the 11 members. You need a governor who's going to appoint members that know that our schools are going to be about reading, writing, and math. That'll be me, and we'll make sure to have a commissioner that is focused on that as well.
Time's up, Governor Beshear. Your response?
Well, I believe the question was, should the Commissioner of Education be independent and be separated from politics? And the answer is absolutely. We have seen so much politics being played in our public schools. My opponent accusing teachers of doing things in the classroom that they are not doing. Our last commissioner
I've seen
was
some
picked
videos
by a board. I had never met him in an independent process through a national search. Those are the ways that we are supposed to select commissioners and try to get the very best. I did replace the members of the Board of Education because the last board was supporting private school vouchers, was supporting charter schools, was trying to go in an unconstitutional way and take your tax dollars away from public schools and send them to private schools. That's exactly what my opponent supports. Again, he just won't look in the camera and say to you that he supports vouchers and charter schools that'll take public dollars and send them to private education.
Rather than a rebuttal on this, let me go on because I have a question
we do have
issue.
to. This governor broke the law. He just appointed Democrats, so it was a partisan pick. Democrats handpicked Jason Glass. Andy Beshear handpicked those Democrat members to the Board of Education, and then they gave us Jason Glass. So it was a partisan pick. He appointed no Republicans.
That's true.
He only appointed Republicans to that board after the Courier-Journal and the Herald-Leader called him out on it, and then they decided to appoint some Republicans.
Bill, the law said that you have to make those appointments without regard to party. We didn't look at anyone's party because that's what the law said. And if you read the law,
but he knows that
it was
9 out of 11 of
to
them are
appoint
Democrats.
Republicans and Democrats. Governor, you know you're
the law
supposed to.
when
He
we
just totally
appointed
contradicted
that new
himself.
board said you could not consider political party. That was the law.
There's this big debate about choice, and we've had some of that here, but let's talk about it. Advocates say that
Beshear's
no
wrong on that
child
one.
should be trapped in a failing school. Opponents say if public money is directed to private schools, it takes resources away from public schools, as has been said here tonight.
Defund the Department of Education.
What is the priority for you in this choice debate, Governor?
I am against anything that will take our public tax dollars from our public schools and send them to private schools. The answer is to better fund our public schools. Right now, some of our schools are failing because we don't pay our educators and our mental health counselors and our bus drivers enough to have enough. The way we address this teacher shortage is to pay people closer to what they're worth. I know so many teachers that are hanging on, having to work a second job when we tell them that this is a noble profession. Our 11% across the board raise will make sure not only that we have enough teachers, but bus drivers, counselors, cafeteria workers, and others. The answer is to lift our public schools up and not
It shouldn't
to tear
be just a
them down.
raise. It should
And
be
that's
finding
part
better
of
quality
the founding under our
teachers
current
to teach the
Constitution,
next
which
generation
says
of
very
kids.
clearly that you cannot divert public dollars. But this Attorney General stands with legislators that have already proposed a constitutional amendment to try to take those dollars away.
General Cameron?
Well, look, my plan, the Cameron catch-up plan, is about our public schools. And the governor is talking about his education policies and these raises. But just in that answer, you heard the governor throw the legislature under the bus. And if you are a parent at home, or even if you're a teacher, or if you're a student watching tonight, you've got to think to yourself, if a governor is willing to throw the legislature under the bus in a comment related to education, how then is he going to be in a position to pass legislation to help our teachers and our students and our families? The answer is he won't, because he does not have the relationships to get anything done. Again, when he unveiled his education plan, the education chair of the House Education Committee said that the governor hadn't reached out to him to even talk about the plan. When I unveiled my education plan, I did it in a responsible manner. I talked to the members of our legislature, and guess what? I've already got the buy-in from them to get the Cameron catch-up plan passed.
Sounds like
Bill,
he's
your
got good
question
connects.
was whether or not he supported school choice, the vouchers, and the charter
I think
schools,
we need
and
to
he did not answer it.
I think we need to expand opportunity and
12
choice.
or
But let me say
13th
this: the
opportunity.
governor is fixated on vouchers. We know how much he dislikes private schools. But at the end of the day, my plan, and I'll say maybe his plan as well, is just about public education. But you need a governor that not only talks about these things, but is willing to do the hard work of communicating with our legislature to get them done for you.
Very quickly, Governor.
So the question was about school choice. Again, a refusal to answer. You deserve a governor that looks at you
a governor
and
that
answers
at the
the
end of the
question.
day,
That doesn't
you
try
deserve
to
a
interrupt
governor-
because
It's
he
getting
knows
interesting.
what I'm saying.
Well, you deserve
is
a governor
right.
that's
You
going to
deserve
catch your
someone who
kids
will
up
be
from the
honest
disastrous
with you
decision that this
on the
governor made
issues that
to
matter.
We're
shut your
sharing
schools down.
rebuttal time now, so let's move on. The AARP shared this question with us, and the numbers are pretty astounding. 89, the Kentucky Supreme Court struck down the state system of local schools because the disparity between the money spent in rich and poor districts was considered too wide. A child's zip code was determining the quality of their education, and that led to the Kentucky Education Reform Act in 1990. Well, there's a new analysis suggesting that there is again a major gap between rich and poor districts and what is being spent per pupil in the present day dollars, and it's wider now than it was then. Does that order, that court order of 34 years ago, still hold, and does the state need to address the disparities? Governor Beshear.
Well, I'm a proud product
Definitely an
of
issue.
Kentucky's public schools. In fact, Fayette County public education. I owe my teachers so much. I would not be where I am today or who I am today without so many people having invested in what was then a shy kid. We have to invest more in our system of public education. My last budget
And the
was the
security.
best budget for public education in a long time, but we have to do more. Our teacher shortage is a crisis across the state. That's why my plan is an 11% across the board raise for every public school employee.
Again,
But
why
the
didn't you do
biggest
that
threat
before?
to our public education system are vouchers. My opponent supports vouchers, which would take money from public schools and send them to fancy private schools, tens if not hundreds of millions of dollars sucked out of a system that already has such
I don't think that's
challenges.
his plan.
And
We'll
he's
have to see what
refused 10
Cameron's rebuttal
times
is.
to look into a camera and say he's for vouchers, even though in a
hear
spectrum
it.
debate in the primary, he looked right at the camera and said, yes, he was.
General Cameron, your response?
Look, Andy Beshear can throw a tantrum about vouchers tonight, but my plan, the Cameron catch-up plan, is about our public education system. And you're going to hear the governor in his rebuttal talk more about vouchers. But you, the parent tonight, I want you to know that in the Cameron catch-up plan, we're going to catch your kids up on the disastrous decision that Andy Beshear made to shut down our schools for nearly 2 years. And because of it, test scores have dropped. Your kids, nearly
No debate
50%
there.
of them can't read at grade level. Only about 29% of them can do
I would have
science
opened the
and
schools.
math at grade level.
Why did it
But
take
this
so
governor,
long?
again, is going to simply talk about vouchers. I want to talk about empowering our teachers to remove disruptions from the classroom. I want to make sure that we pay our teachers. Look, I'm married
get better
to a school
quality
teacher.
individuals
My
in
sister-in-law is a school teacher. My mother retired as a public educator. I grew up in the Hardin County school system. I want to make sure that we have a world-class education system, one that is about reading, writing, and math, and isn't an incubator for liberal and progressive ideas. At the end of the day, we can make sure that this Commonwealth has a world-class education system, and I'm ready to lead on that.
Bill, if you're for public education, you don't have plans and positions that would dramatically defund it. Now there have been 11 chances
There he goes
for
again.
this Attorney General to come clean about the fact that he supports vouchers. So here, Spectrum News Republican debate at the Henry Clay in Louisville on March 7th, 2023. He answered it then. The host said, do you support charter schools and also private school vouchers? Yes or no? Daniel Cameron, yes. Folks, he will defund your public schools. None of us are fooled. He's trying to send that money to fancy private schools and corporations.
If you're a parent at home right now, you didn't hear the governor at all address the learning loss because this governor has no regrets from the fact that he shut down our schools. Not only did he shut down our schools, he shut down your small businesses, he shut down your churches. Again, the product is our kids are falling behind. And I've got a plan that addresses our public schools our public education system to catch our kids up. It's modeled after things that we've seen in Tennessee, Utah, and Arizona. We can bring that here. It's a 16-week program to catch our kids up.
His plan is to defund them.
Gentlemen, respectfully, I'm not sure I heard an answer as to whether the state of Kentucky needs to make some major investment in public education once again.
Absolutely.
To make these poor districts whole, which cannot get enough money from the property tax.
Let me answer it directly. Yes, we need to invest significantly more in public education. My budgets would have been the largest investments, we believe, in history, cut a little by the General Assembly. But if you're for vouchers, you're not going to get that funding. You're going to take it out of schools. Just be honest.
And we also see younger voters registering independent in large numbers. They don't want any part of the partisanship.
Or libertarian.
Is it important to keep Washington-style politics out of Frankfurt, or are we just in a time where lack of cooperation and gridlock are part of the landscape? General Cameron?
Well, look, I certainly think that we need to try to unify the state. That's why it's been so disappointing to see a governor who would veto legislation to protect women's sports from biological males. I think most folks that are watching at home right now, if you have a daughter or granddaughter who's competing in her sport, you want to keep it safe from men. But yet this governor won't take that approach. So I think we do need to unify this state, but at the same time, you need to have a governor that's willing to stand up and make the tough decisions and push back against what's coming out of Washington, D.C., whether it's inflation, whether it's Joe Biden's EPA that's trying to destroy our coal industry, whether it's Joe Biden who wanted to force vaccine mandates on our state. You need a governor that is going to stand up to that. Now, Andy Beshear will say that, we can't worry about what's happening in D.C. We need to worry about what's happening in your house. But the fact of the matter is, inflation is rocking your wallet and your savings in your house. Violent crime is in your neighborhood, and that's what I'm running towards in addressing.
Governor Beshear responds.
You just saw my opponent try to bring that D.C. politics into the answer to that question. We absolutely have to keep D.C. politics and dysfunction out of our state. A governor's got to get things done. I've signed 627 bipartisan bills as governor. We've gotten things done that they said would never happen while I'm governor, like passing medical marijuana, sports betting, $500 million in clean drinking water, money to get high-speed internet to every home across Kentucky, a special session that landed us the biggest investment in our history. That Ford Motor Company, $5.8 billion, 5,000 new job investment. Partisanship. Red versus blue, Team R versus Team D is eating up our country. Neighbors yelling at neighbors, and you see their commercials. My opponent's trying to get you to violate that golden rule, to get you angry, to get you to dislike or even hate your neighbor.
That sounds
Folks,
a lot
there can't
like
be
you.
Team Red or Blue. There has to be Team Kentucky. And just listen to the number of times he said the president's name. He wants to confuse you. This is about us. It's about Kentucky and about who will get things done versus who will bring Washington, D.C. into your home even more.
Yeah, I'm not trying to confuse you. I'm just pointing out that this governor endorsed the very policies that have gotten us into the economic mess that we're in now. And that is affecting your home. That's affecting your wallet. That's affecting your savings account. That's affecting your ability to buy groceries and put food on the table. And that's the point that I think is really important. And I know there are a lot of folks at home right now that want leadership that's going to stand up and push back against what we're seeing out of Washington, D.C.
So what my opponent has said is he wants to be governor to fight who's in D.C. I've been a governor to create good jobs for your family, to make sure that we do everything we can for public safety, that's working on 3 impossible infrastructure projects at the same time. The Brent Spence Bridge, 4-laning the Mountain Parkway, and moving I-69 along. I've provided discretionary transportation funding to every county because there aren't red counties or blue counties. There are just Kentucky counties. So you can pick somebody that pledges to fight in Washington, D.C., or someone who's just worked for you every day.
10 seconds.
Look, this is a governor who's living in an alternate reality. Things are not better at your house, and you know that by your savings account and what is in your checking account.
All right. Want to preserve time for our closing remarks, and each candidate will have 1 minute for that, as we have been through a lot of issues here this evening in an interesting time in politics and here in the Commonwealth. The candidates drew for the order of closing remarks, and so we began with a closing statement from Attorney General Cameron.
Well, thank you, Bill. You've heard the governor tonight tell you how well the economy is doing, but chances are you don't feel that way because inflation is rocking your wallet. Now, where the governor and I have agreed is that this isn't a race about Republican versus Democrat. Where we differ, however, is what it's about. And I think this is a race about crazy versus normal. And I think it's crazy to have a governor who openly endorses Joe Biden, who shut down your churches, who shut down your schools, who shut down your small businesses, who's failed to protect women's sports from biological males,
Joe Biden,
who's vetoed tax cuts. But ladies and gentlemen, we don't have to accept this crazy agenda any longer. We can make sure that we have leadership that makes sure that we have quality schools, that we support our teachers, that we keep our streets safe from crime and drugs. And yes, we can eliminate Kentucky's income tax. That's where you and I can go together if you vote for me on November 7th. I'd love to have your help. We can make this Commonwealth a shining city on a hill, a model and an example for the rest of the nation to follow. Thank you so much.
Governor Beshear, your closing remarks.
You know, we've been through a lot together, Kentucky. We've been through a pandemic, tornadoes, flooding, windstorms, and ice storms, yet here we stand on economic development, the envy of the nation. Ranked number 2 in the entire country in per capita economic development, number 3 in the creation of rural jobs. We brought in more private sector investment, an objective fact, than ever before in our history, created 48,000 new jobs at the second and third highest wages we've ever seen. An overly partisan governor will stop all of that. Somebody with rash plans that decimated Kansas's economy will stop all that. Someone who wants to defund your public schools will stop all of that. Folks, we have got to keep this going. And in me, you have a governor that doesn't see Team Red or Team Blue, just Team Kentucky. But if we want to talk about normal versus crazy, it's crazy we have a candidate that doesn't have the empathy to look in a camera and say he supports victims of rape and incest, some as young as 9, to have options. I will always be the type of governor that you might not agree with, but you'll know he's doing what he thinks is right.
Time's up. We do want to thank our partners for tonight's debate. We couldn't do it without them. AARP of Kentucky, the University of Kentucky Student Government, and the League of Women Voters of Kentucky. Certainly thanks to the candidates for taking part, subjecting themselves to my questions and each other tonight, as they have done across the state. And it's been a credit in this campaign to the two of you that you've been willing to do these debates and inform the people. Early in-person voting is Thursday, November 2nd, Friday, November 3rd, and Saturday, November 4th. Election Day, Tuesday, November 7th. The polls will be open from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. that day. For more information, go to vote.ky.gov. On behalf of WKYT and Gray Television, I'm Bill Bryant. Thank you for watching the Kentucky Debate.
That was pretty good, especially for a governor's debate. So that was a pretty interesting debate, to say the least. So after that, you can see that Daniel Cameron is pretty strong about his points about abortion, about putting Kentucky first. But I will say with him, whenever Beshear questioned him about vouchers and a few other issues, he didn't really give a direct answer. He kind of went around the question. That is the one thing I do agree with Beshear on in that debate. But with Beshear, I will say he's really good at talking and putting himself out there like an actor and portraying a story to feed off of those who aren't politically intelligible enough to understand what's going on. It's really easy to see through what he's doing. He's really good at speaking fast and portraying himself to be the good guy. When you actually listen to him, though, it's like he doesn't have any plans at all. It's really, honestly, dumb if you listen to some of the things he says. He's just really good at talking fast and making it seem like he knows what he's doing. But other than that, I mean, he does have the 4 years of experience. That's what he does have over Cameron, obviously. But clearly, our economy's in shambles, whether you're in Kentucky or whether, anywhere in the United States. We can all agree upon that. He'll go as far to say that Bidenomics are actually helping the country, when we all know that's not the truth. With all the issues that we have, I think we need someone to step forward and acknowledge those issues and have a plan and be a true leader. And I don't think we see that with Andy Beshear. I don't think he recognizes where we're at as a country and even a state as Kentucky. We need true leadership. We have so many issues. And again, the first step is acknowledging those issues and then solving them. But he seems to have a completely different reality of what's going on here. So with all that being said, I'd like to give my full endorsement to Attorney General Daniel Cameron. I think he's best fit. He's been there, done that. He knows where the corruption lies. He's a newer guy with newer generational ideas. And I think that's what we need to put Kentucky first. And this isn't Republican versus Democrat. Like Cameron said, this is crazy versus normal. Do you want a governor that's going to promote and allow transgender women to play in women's sports and transgender men to play in men's sports? Do you want no gender identity at all and so many things taught in the classrooms that your kids are going to have to be indoctrinated to? Or do you want a governor that's going to stand against those ideas and be for the people of Kentucky and not allow this sort of indoctrination and this sort of idiocracy to be portrayed throughout our school systems and throughout our state? I think the choice is really clear, but I'll leave it up to you. Like I said, the voting is on November 7th in Kentucky, so make sure to get out there and vote if you're a resident. It's just as important to cover local politics as it is to cover federal and national politics, so it's always important to stay informed. It's going to be 1 year from now until the presidential election, but right now the state of Kentucky is in a really important bind. We need to make sure we keep the craziness out of Kentucky and we get Daniel Cameron in office.